Marty Morrison with the Arkla Oak Tech Sportsman Fishing and Hunting Report. Today I want to talk to you about a technique that a lot of people overlook, and that's proper reel lubrication. What I have today is a bait casting reel. A lot of times you see people take the end of their rod, stick their reel in the water, and then they'll pull it out and go, well, she's working good now. That's not proper. There are actually internal parts that need oil and lubrication. So what I want to talk to you today is how to properly take your reel apart, lubricate that shaft, and remove the spool, line spool, and then put it back together. So there are some tools that I do need while I'm doing this. With this particular bait caster, my line is still on the spool. So what I had to do was I took some masking tape and I took the tag end of the line and I taped it down. However, if you are using a reel that does not have any line on it, you will not need the masking tape. The second item I have is a very small screwdriver. I'm going to use it today, one, for a pointer, but also I will have it in case there are small debris that I need to remove. The second item will be a good pair of clippers and then proper reel oil. Any type of oil that you could use is better than nothing. However, this is reel oil that I received from Bass Pro Shops. I'm sure there are many types and many manufacturers of reel oil. However, this is the one that I have today. Step number one, take your bait caster. Again, if you needed to tape your line down, you would do so. Next step, look at your reel and see if there's anything that may be bent, damaged, or destroyed that you will need to either replace or decide whether you need a new reel. Next, what I do is I take my bait caster and I just hold it in my hand here and I just reel it like what I would as I was fishing. I can tell this reel is tight and it also needs some lubrication along with the guide vane here. Most bait casters, this particular model I have here, has a pin somewhere on it. What you're going to be doing for that is you're going to look for that pin or that lever. What it's going to do is it's going to actually open up this opposite housing case from your reel side. If I were reeling left-handed, it would be on this side. For this particular model, I'm using a right-handed reel, so the left side of the housing is what I'm going to remove. What I found here is I found a little lever. On some bait casters you have pins. This particular model has the lever. What I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it to open. I hear it snap. I'm going to now twist my hand, and what's going to happen is this particular housing is going to pop up. Now what I'm going to do is twist this particular housing. You'll see that there's a small spring on the inside and this particular housing moves. What I want to do now is check and make sure that spring is intact along with this housing. This particular bait casting model does not come off of the bait caster. However, there are some models out there that this particular cover will completely become a separate piece. As I look in here, I see many items. I see a nut, and I also see some small pink weights and things in there. What I want to do is now take and unscrew this particular mechanism that holds the spool inside the reel. It's now removable. Set that to the side. What I have now is I can see that the mechanism for the spool, the brakes, and all types of bearings are exposed. What I want to do is take my hand, put it on top of the reel, and rotate 180 degrees. What that's going to do is now allow the spool to fall out of my hand. I have a properly spool with line and also have a stainless shaft. I'm going to set that to the side. Now what I have is my reel housing. I have that piece that connects and holds the spool in. I have my reel handle. I can also see my guide eye. You can also see right here, it's completely open. As I have this now, I'm going to use my little screwdriver as a pointer here. I can see my guide eye. I can also see inside, and I see that I have a small bearing, and I can also remove any type of grit and grime that may be inside the reel at this time. For today's purposes, I'm just going to lubricate the shaft and the bearings inside the reel housing to make this a quicker video. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my reel oil that I got. It has a small little piping mechanism, and I'm going to add 2 drops inside this stainless housing, but also this bushing. 1, 2. You need no more than 2, maybe 3 drops. You don't want to have this reel completely soaked with any type of oil. One, if you're out and you go down a dirt road and your reel's in your boat or your reel is in your back of your truck, the dust can make that gum up. And also you don't want to do that because that oil can get on your line and on your bait, and then fish can smell that. So what I do is I usually use 2, possibly 3 drops. I'm going to set that down now. What I'm also going to do is add 1 drop onto the shaft of the spool. I don't want to take my brakes or anything, and I definitely don't want to mess with those because that's what is allowing my reel to work properly as I use it. I'm going to take this now. You can see here that there is some oil, and I'm going to take my finger and just remove that little excess of oil. Set it back down. Now you can see that I have my line, my housing I should say, open, and my guide eye. There are a little some bearings and things in there, so what I want to do is basically put 1 drop of oil or 2 drops of oil on each side of that mechanism, and then what I want to do is basically reel my reel just as I would if I was fishing. What that does is properly lubricate that guide eye mechanism. Okay, now I have showed you all the proper steps to lubricate your guide eye mechanism, your bearings inside your reel portion of your reel, and I've also showed you how to lubricate the shaft of the spool. Now we're going to put it all back together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spool and my shaft. We don't want to touch it because we've already lubricated it up. My line's intact. It's not over the edge because of my tape that I have used earlier. My mechanism for my weights are properly intact. They have not been moved. What I'm going to do is go backwards of the way that I showed you to take it apart. I'm going to hold my reel in my hand. My housing cover's out of the way. I'm going to stick this in. Turn it around here where you can see a little better. Inside the housing there. It should go in perfect. It fell back in properly. You don't want to beat. You do not want to bang. You do not want to force this. This is very, very small components. You want to make sure then nothing has fallen out of your reel housing or out of your spool. It's in there. I'm going to show you. Now what I'm going to do is take my nut, stick it back inside, and just screw it back on. I don't want it tight, I just want it snug. If it's real tight, your reel will not work properly. It will make it hard to wind up. Now that that's in, I want to turn it over. You can see that it did not fall apart. It isn't back in properly. What you might do now is you can lubricate, or you do not have to lubricate this particular spring. I'm going to twist the housing cover back where it needs to go. Press down, just as I did earlier when I removed it. Hold it down with my finger, and now I'm going to take this lever that I used to release the cover and close it. You heard it snap. Now I press my button. My reel is working properly. Hope you've enjoyed this. Please look for more videos on our Facebook and YouTube. Until next time, safe fishing.